Hi everybody, welcome back to English for You. I'm Pat.
And I'm Mike.
And we're on day 2 of our article about churros, which we found yesterday are fried dough sticks that are popular in Spain, Portugal, and Latin America, and we usually associate this particular snack, whatever, with these places.
That's right. Now, these are a sweet treat, usually eaten as a snack or a dessert. You might have a savory version, but for churros, usually they are sweet. So you will have them, with your coffee or with your hot chocolate or something like that. But they are very similar to the Chinese youtiao, the fried dough stick. Those are generally savory, whereas churros are more of a sweet dessert thing. But basically, they're made of and made in the same way.
Now, one story is that they actually came from youtiao. The Portuguese brought them back to Europe, made them sweet. Another story is the food was just shepherds frying up the ingredients to make a sweet bread, and churros are what came out. Now, because they're found in so many different countries, there are many different kinds. The most common are the Spanish churros, which are made with cinnamon sugar. They're sometimes served or dipped in chocolate or milk candy, but there are other kinds too.
That's right. Brazilian and Portuguese churros are made the same way, but often filled with jelly or a fruit jam of some kind instead. So something sweet, but a little different from chocolate or sweet milk pudding. But of course, there are many styles too. We learned that churros are served in Spain, Portugal, and most parts of Latin America. So from Mexico down to Argentina, Chile, you can find churros in many different styles. And today, we're going to learn how to make them.
Okay,
I can't wait.
Yeah, get your pens, notebooks, and all your kitchen stuff ready. Let's get into it.
Reading.
Spain's sweet treat will make your mouth water. So, now that your taste buds are tingling for the taste of some delicious churros, here's how to make some. Ingredients: 50 grams butter, melted, 0.5 tablespoons vanilla extract, 250 grams plain flour, 1 tablespoon baking powder, 1 liter oil, 100 grams castor sugar, 2 tablespoons cinnamon. To make the churros, first mix the butter and vanilla extract with 300 milliliters of boiling water. Then combine the flour and baking powder in a big bowl. Make a hole in the center of the mix and pour the butter and vanilla into it. Quickly beat the liquid into the flour with a wooden spoon. Now, the churro dough is finished. Mix the sugar and cinnamon together on a tray. Fill a large pan 1/3 full of oil and heat it. Put the churro dough into a piping bag and carefully pipe 2 to 3 strips into the oil. Fry the strips until they are golden brown. Add more strips until all the churro dough has been used. Once the churros are cooked, sprinkle them with the cinnamon sugar, and then enjoy.
All right, so let's get to today's article. I hope you guys are hungry. The article says, so now that your taste buds are tingling for the taste of some delicious churros, here's how to make some. All right, that's the lead-in to our little recipe and cooking description. But now that we've read a day of articles about churros, now that we know what they are, now that we are ready to have them, we use this expression to talk about a situation that has kind of been made recently, that's happened recently. We know this is true. It's happened just now. So now that this has happened, something else can happen. Now that the guests have arrived, the party can start. Now that I've wrapped my present, I'm ready to give it to my friend. Or now that the teacher is in the classroom, we can begin the test. Great.
Yep, and so now that your taste buds are probably tingling for churros, we can make them. But what are taste buds? Well, they are the cells on your tongue that taste things. Basically, if you put food in your mouth, cells on your tongue will go, that's salty, that's sweet, that's spicy or whatever. and that's what a taste bud is. Although, to be fair, a lot of your taste cells are actually in your nose.
True.
As well, but the taste buds we generally think of as the ones on your tongue.
Absolutely. And we use this expression. It's really an expression. I don't think you should actually feel it probably, but your taste buds are tingling. When something is tingling, you're getting a kind of almost like a light electric feeling in it. Like when your skin, you can feel something kind of crawling on your skin, or maybe you put a cream on your skin and it makes your skin feel hot in some kind of way. If you eat something a little bit spicy, that might make your tongue tingle. Or sometimes I've had my hair washed and they use something with like almost a minty thing in it. It makes the skin on my head tingle a little bit. So it's really just a sensation of feeling a light. It's not painful, certainly, but you will definitely notice it. And we use the expression taste buds tingling to kind of say your mouth is watering, you're ready to eat, your brain is hungry, your mouth is going, I want it now. My taste buds are tingling. So in other words, if now that you're ready to eat it, we're going to show you how to make it.
Okay, now first we need to deal with the ingredients. We looked at this word yesterday. It's the food to make other food, and here are the foods you need to make churros.
Okay.
50 grams of butter, melted. Okay, we're presenting this in a recipe style, so don't worry about these not being complete grammatical sentences. This is what you'd see in a recipe book. So this butter must be melted, okay? Melt is a verb. It means to change from a solid to a liquid after it heats up. Think of ice becoming water. Ice cream on a hot day will melt and get all over your hand. Take an ice cube out from the fridge and put it on the counter. In maybe 10-15 minutes, it will have melted just into water. So to melt butter, you kind of just put it in a dish. You could leave it, or you could put the dish in some hot water, and the butter will melt. You can just do it over a flame as well. Here's an example sentence. The plastic bottle on the kitchen counter began to melt when it was placed too close to the stove. It's a little dangerous. You don't want to do that. Yes. So we need to get some butter and melt it. What else do we need?
After you get the butter, you have to get yourself 0.5 tablespoons or half a tablespoon of vanilla extract. All right, very important. Vanilla extract can be a little hard to find here in Taiwan, but if you go to a store, a supermarket, or a special baking store, it will be in the baking section with bags of sugar, bags of flour, things like that you would use to make cakes and pies. Vanilla extract is basically a mix of vanilla flavor, water, and alcohol. It makes a very strong vanilla flavor. You wouldn't want to drink this or anything like that. But if you use a few drops, it can give you a really nice vanilla flavor in your cake or in your pie or something like that. But you'll often buy it in a very small bottle and use just a few drops. In that case, was it half a teaspoon?
Half a tablespoon.
Tablespoon. Actually, that's quite a lot of vanilla extract. So it will have a nice, strong vanilla flavor. Okay, so far, butter and flavor.
Okay.
But we don't have much here to make a churro with.
Well, that's next on our list. 250 grams of plain flour.
Great.
Just your regular average, nothing special, just basic flour.
Okay.
And then 1 tablespoon of baking powder. Let's find out exactly what we mean by this by looking at the word powder. So generally, powder is something that's very fine, very dry, lots and lots of tiny little bits. Flour is a powder. Makeup, you put makeup powder on your face. You might use powder, different types of spice is ground down into a powder that you use to cook with. Cinnamon, when you use the cinnamon on something, it's basically in powder form. Now, baking powder is a particular kind of powder. It's a dry chemical that's used to make bread or dough rise. You add it to the dough, you leave the dough somewhere reasonably warm, and it will get bigger and bigger, and air will get into it, which makes the dough lighter. So you might say, if you're using the word generally about powder, Gabriel sprinkled some onion powder into the soup and then had a taste. Okay, so we've got the vanilla, we've got the baking powder,
Yes.
we've got all the flour, we've got the butter.
That's right.
But we need some more stuff.
If it's based on a fried dough stick, we've got the dough, but we need to fry it. And if you need to fry something, you need oil, lots of oil. In this case, 1 liter of oil. All right, that's a fair amount of oil, but when you're making French fries or fried chicken, you kind of dip it in like a small bowl or pool of oil. So a liter would do. What is a liter? It is 1,000 milliliters. It's a measurement for liquid. A liter is basically like one of those fairly big bottles of water, not a giant one. I think if you buy a small can of Coca-Cola, that's like 300?
330.
Yeah, so maybe 3 cans of Coca-Cola, something like that, or a fairly large bottle, but not the really big one. A liter of water weighs 1 kilogram.
Yep.
Right? That's equal. So there you go. But it's a very common measurement for liquid, but a liter of oil to cook something is quite a lot.
It is, yes.
For most things, you would only use a few tablespoons, and certainly not a liter.
Yeah, you'd use that much oil for deep frying, for
Yes.
really putting it inside.
There you go.
So we also need 100 grams of castor sugar. This is just a type of sugar that's very fine grains. It's not large pieces of sugar. It's like been sieved down. It's the really small, fine powder sugar.
Okay, often used in cooking because you want the sugar to really mix in and not have little pieces of sugar in there.
Yeah, you wouldn't put castor sugar in your tea to make it sweet.
No, usually used just in baking as an ingredient. And also 2 tablespoons of, remember, cinnamon.
Yes.
That's right. You need that cinnamon flavor. 2 tablespoons should be enough, but if you like a lot of cinnamon flavor, you can add a little bit more. So now we have collected all of the ingredients. The oil is getting hot on the stove. Be very, very careful when cooking with a lot of hot oil. It always makes me nervous, so always do it with a parent around, someone who knows what they're doing. But anyways, once you have everything ready, what do you do?
Well, the article says, to make the churros, first, mix the butter and vanilla extract with 300 milliliters of boiling water. So you get the water ready. So boiling water, it's got to be super hot. 300 milliliters, that's about 1/3 of a liter. That is about a can of Coke amount of water. Okay, so you're mixing them together. What then?
All right, then combine the flour and baking powder in a big bowl. So these are 2 of your dry, powdery things. Put the flour and the baking powder in. You can just stir it up even with your hand or something like that. Just mix those together. So we've got the liquid stuff, we've got the powder stuff. I think it's time to make a dough.
But first, we need to look at the word combine.
Let's do that. To combine is basically like to mix. If you take 2 things that are fine on their own, that exist on their own, but you put them together and then you combine them or mix them so that they become a new thing, congratulations, you have successfully combined them. If you get tea and you get some sugar and some milk and you put the sugar and milk in your tea, it doesn't just sort of sit there with a layer of sugar and then a layer of milk and then the tea on the bottom. No, because those wouldn't be combined. You get your spoon or whatever, you turn it around, you spin it around, you mix it up or combine it, and then you get a lovely sweet milk tea. Can you take the milk and the sugar back out of the tea later on? No, of course you not. Of course you can't, because now they've been mixed or combined. You've taken these separate things and turned them into a new thing by mixing or combining. Here's a recipe for you. You guys should try this one. If you combine oil, vinegar, ketchup, mayonnaise, and some spices, you get yum yum sauce. I made some a few weeks ago. Delicious.
Okay, so as Mike said, you've got your dry ingredients, and then which is your flour and baking powder.
Yes.
Then you've got your wet stuff, your butter and your vanilla.
Right.
And some water. So it says make a hole in the center of the mix, meaning the dry stuff.
Okay.
So you kind of got it in a bowl, you make a hole in the middle and pour the butter and vanilla into it.
Interesting.
Now, the reason you do it that way is it just makes it easier to combine them later.
Right.
If you just put them on top, Mixing them is going to be a bit messier, a bit more difficult. You maybe won't get it nice and even, but pouring them into the middle of the liquid, you can kind of slowly work your way out and get everything. It's kind of basic baking technique.
Yeah.
So the word pour means to carefully, that's the key word, allow a liquid to fall from up into down, from higher into lower. You pour tea from a teapot into a mug. You would pour, you've got Coke in a can, you want to drink it from a cup, you pour it in the cup. Pour water over your head on a hot day to cool down.
Or that dirty water from mopping the floor, you pour it out into the sink when you're done.
Exactly. And here's one more. Helga poured some milk onto her breakfast cereal. You don't just throw it down or tip it down, you pour carefully.
Yeah, you don't take the cereal and dip it into the milk. That would take way too long. So pour it in, mix it up, you're ready to go. All right, so we've got our flour and stuff, the dry stuff. We've got the wet stuff in the middle. As you say, this is often what you do to make pasta and to make bread and stuff. It's easier to combine and mix. And then quickly beat the liquid into the flour with a wooden spoon. Sounds easy, but it's going to give your arm a good workout.
Yep.
You might want to take turns with your friend because mixing all that powder in with that liquid does take a while, and you're doing it with a lot of energy. You're not just sort of slowly doing it like this. No, you're probably doing it in a motion more like this, like with eggs, and we know that because of the use of this verb to beat. Now, it's not like beating someone with a stick or beating them with your hands. No, of course not. But basically, you're using a lot of energy to mix things and probably moving your hand very fast. You might be using a special tool. Sometimes you can use a fork or something, or sometimes use something that's almost like a long cage with just little wires of metal, and that's actually called an egg beater. It's a tool, a kitchen tool designed to beat eggs or to mix them and put air into them at the same time. That's what you're doing when you're beating. You're mixing and filling with air, and often things will kind of get bigger as you beat them, right? As the air adds more volume. For example, we could say beat a few eggs with some salt and pepper and then cook them in a hot pan with a bit of oil to make scrambled eggs, but you have to beat the eggs first.
Okay, so now the churro dough is finished.
Yay!
Okay, so you've got this big pile. It should all be nice and even. Nothing too wet, nothing too dry. You've got all the powder. It's got plenty of air in it. So what next?
All right, mix the sugar and cinnamon together on a tray. Okay. So this is probably for after they're cooked.
Yep. So then fill a large pan 1/3 full of oil and heat it.
Okay.
Now here we're using a fraction, 1/3. So divide it into 3 parts. Each part is 1/3. It's around 33%. So if you've got a pan, you fill the bottom third. So there should be twice as much space left at the top as there is full of oil.
All right, so 33% full approximately. Now put the churro dough into a piping bag and carefully pipe 2 to 3 strips into the oil. Yeah, this gets a little confusing because you're like, I have this giant pile of kind of wet dough. This isn't like a French fry or a piece of chicken I can just dip in the oil, let it sit there, and then bring it out. How do I get this kind of thick liquid into the oil to cook? The piping bag is your friend. What is a piping bag? It's a special kind of bag or a tool that you can find in a baking shop or in a kitchen supply store. And it will basically be a bag, and at the end it will have some kind of special spout or nose.
Like a mouth.
A mouth, and it has maybe different shapes on it, like a star shape or a round shape or a triangle shape. And as you squeeze the bag, that thick liquid comes out. We often use it to do those beautiful designs on top of a cake when they draw those, or build, in fact, those little roses, or write your name on top of the bag they're using, or on top of the cake, they're using a piping bag. I think you could probably get one of those bags you put food to store it.
Just cut the corner
and
off.
just cut the corner off and do it that way, and then you squeeze it out. But the point is, you want to carefully, slowly control how you put the dough into the oil. You don't want it to splash, and you don't want it to just kind of jumble together in a big, ugly lump. And that's where the piping bag becomes very useful.
Yeah, because you need to make strips to make the stick like churros.
Stick.
Yeah, let's look at the word strip in our next little section on vocabulary. So a strip is a long, thin piece of something. We often use the word strip to talk about bacon. A single piece of bacon that you buy in a supermarket could be called a strip of bacon. If you had strips of material, you'd go, okay, look at these strips. I like this one. We'll make your clothes or curtains or carpet out of this thing. As long as it's long, thin, and usually fairly flat, it doesn't have to be an exact shape. It's just long and thin, kind of like a flat stick. You might say, Reggie tore the piece of paper into 3 long strips.
All right, so once we have piped these churro sticks very carefully into the hot oil, they're bubbling away in that hot oil. Make sure the temperature of the oil stays high. You need a thermometer for that. But once you get the oil perfectly at the right temperature, fry the strips until they are golden brown. That's a good thing about frying things. You don't really need to time it. You just look at it. Does it look like fried chicken? Does it look like a French fry? Take it out. Or maybe even a little earlier, because it might cook a little bit longer.
Not with your hands.
Not with your hands.
Use the
no,
metal
yes, not with your hands. But take it
Okay.
out when it looks nice golden brown, like
Yeah.
it would be ready to eat.
And then add more strips until all the churro dough has been used.
Boom. There you go. Once the churros are cooked, maybe let them, sort of dry or, leave them on something to cool down a little bit because they will be very hot. Once the churros are cooked and cooled, sprinkle them with the cinnamon sugar and then enjoy. But again, blow on it. Make sure you don't burn your tongue. That's probably what I do because I'm so excited. But yes, before you do eat them, sprinkle them with some of that lovely cinnamon and sugar. When you sprinkle something, you take something like a powder, something light that comes in very, very small pieces, and you basically drop it over the top. You might sprinkle salt into your meal, sprinkle pepper into things. You might sprinkle shiny powder or shiny makeup onto your face to make it look like you have stars or something. We sprinkle things when we want to spread them over a large area and not just kind of drop a big pile in one spot. You move it around carefully, slowly sprinkling.
Okay, sounds good. And there you go. You're ready to eat. With anything else, if you want to stick some ice cream or you want any other ingredients, the rest is up to you. But that is the basics of making churros.
Cool.
So we're done with that, which means it's time to go to our For You Chat question.
You chat.
So our chat question is, would you like to try making churros? Why or why not?
I would, because it sounds tasty and fairly easy, but I got to admit, cooking with big pots of hot oil always makes me nervous. I'm okay with cooking chicken a little bit that way, but some of the times that I've tried to cook, I just get a little nervous. And of course, you do use a lot of oil.
Yeah.
And I always feel a little guilty about that, but I think I might just keep buying churros. But who knows? Maybe one day, maybe during Chinese New Year, when I have lots of time for home projects, I might try it out. What about you?
Well, I am the owner of an air fryer. So I will maybe, after we finish filming, have a very quick search. Can you make this kind of food in an air fryer?
That's a good question.
Like, can I get this, do all the dough the same way, but instead of piping it straight into this hot oil, I will pipe it just onto a tray and put it in the air fryer and see if it works in the same way.
Yeah.
I mean, it should do. I mean, I've fried chicken in an air fryer.
Okay.
I've fried other stuff in the air fryer. So there's absolutely no reason why this shouldn't work.
And it could come out lighter and more healthier and safer too.
Exactly. I don't have to worry about boiling oil covering everybody and stuff like that. So yeah, maybe I will try it over Chinese
I bet
New
you
Year.
could find out if that would work on the internet before you actually do it. Because I think churros are popular, air fryers are popular. I'm sure someone's tried it before.
Absolutely.
But that would be an interesting kitchen experiment.
Okay, well, I'll go ahead and try it. What about you guys? You want to try making this? You want to give it a shot? Follow our instructions and let us know how it goes. But we're out of time for today. Thanks for watching, everybody. For English for You, I'm Pat.
I'm Mike.
And we'll talk to you again next time. Bye-bye.
Buenos dias.
Vocabulary Review.
Melt. It was so hot outside that the chocolate melted in my bag on the walk home. Powder. This white powder is laundry soap. Add 1 cup when you wash 1 basket of clothes. Combine. You can make a delicious drink by combining milk, fruit, and chocolate. Pour. Susie opened the bottle of orange juice and poured herself a glass. Beat. Walter beat 2 eggs with a fork and cooked them in a hot pan. Strip. I cut the piece of paper into long strips with scissors.
智慧小补帖。
Tingle. Vanilla extract. Castor sugar. Sprinkle.
以上节目是由活用空中美语制作，活用空中美语杂志，请洽询全国各大书店。如欲索取试听教材，请来电02-2364-4000 02-2364-4000，或上网查询，网址是 www.english4u.net www.english4u.net